When a distressed woman is found dead, it leaves the staff wondering if her behavior during her visit could have indicated that someone should have stepped in sooner. You know, we pass by other people every day, not knowing their struggles or their pain or even their self-image. We carry on with our routine. All of us do. And it's when someone isn't here anymore that it begs the question, could I have done something to save them? Welcome to Whispers from the Inn. I'm your host, Sarah, and I'm a longtime hotel operator and hospitality professional. In this podcast, together we'll explore real stories of hotels, inns, lodges, different places that we lay our heads, and also talk about staff stories and internal gossip. We'll learn about the stories that hotels don't put on their website. And tonight we're checking into a place that gleams in the California sun, but it carries a shadow that never quite checked out. This is the Hotel Del Coronado and the story of a beautiful stranger, Kate Morgan. Guests come for the history, the ocean air, the grandeur, but some leave talking about cold breezes with no source, lights that flicker without a reason, and a woman in black lace waiting at the windows. The Hotel Del Coronado opened in 1888. It didn't open quietly or modestly. At the time, it was considered the largest resort of its kind in the world. It's a seaside palace built almost entirely out of wood, just rising up from the Coronado Island like something imagined rather than something constructed. Guests didn't just arrive here, though. They journeyed here, often by ferry and trains. They were already stepping out of their ordinary life before they ever crossed the threshold at the hotel front doors. The atmosphere is unique at the Del. Its architecture is Queen Anne Victorian, and it has these sweeping staircases, turrets, and towers, beautiful intricacies of archways throughout, and there's these long wandering corridors almost designed to slow you down. The ocean air is constantly moving around the building. And from the beginning, the hotel wasn't meant to feel temporary. Your stay wasn't meant to feel temporary. It was meant to feel separate. And separation does something to people. Over the decades, the Del has hosted presidents, royalty, and Hollywood icons. And actually, during World War II, it became a U.S. Navy facility. So thousands of young men who were training in the area stayed at the Hotel Del. They were waiting, they were leaving, they were saying goodbye. So this hotel didn't just witness vacations, it actually held turning points in people's lives. And it's places like that that accumulate stories. Now, in this story that we're talking about with Kate Morgan, she stayed at the hotel on Thanksgiving Day in 1892. So it was just 4 years after the hotel opened. And she arrived alone. Actually, she registered herself as Lottie A. Bernard from Detroit. But her real name was Kate Morgan. And Kate wasn't a wealthy person. She worked as a domestic, a caretaker in a prominent Los Angeles household. She was a woman who was used to serving others and not being served. So she had taken a train from Los Angeles to San Diego. During that journey, fellow passengers later reported that something wasn't right. And actually, it's an unsettling detail of this story. Potentially. We'll see what you think at the end. They say that Kate was arguing with a man. He was a male companion who, according to witnesses, eventually left her. He just deserted her before they arrived. But there's no word on the stop that he took and who this man was. Now, by the time that Kate actually stepped into the Hotel Del Coronado, she was alone. She had told the staff different stories about why she was there. So sometimes she would tell them that she was waiting for her husband, who was a doctor. She would tell other staff members that her brother was a doctor and he was coming to meet her. She also mentioned that it was just a gentleman that would be coming soon. And she would have the staff draw her baths at night after night, and she would speak to the housekeepers. They learned that she was sick. At least that's what she told them. She had mentioned to the housekeepers that she had cancer, and they described her as sorrowful, withdrawn, and overall sickly. But they hadn't questioned it yet. They just didn't say anything. They kind of went along with their days, and then they started to be more concerned. She had told one of the staff members that she had fallen one night after taking a bath, and they advised her to go see a doctor, but she refused. Now, so far, she's spent 5 nights at the Del. To clarify, just regarding her room, when she stayed at the Hotel Del, that room number was 302 at the time. Now, the Del's had so many renovations over the years, and it was eventually changed to room 3327, but today the room number is 33036. During her stay, Kate had left the hotel at one point. I don't know at which point. I couldn't find the information on which night she had left the hotel to go down to downtown San Diego to 5th Street, where she purchased a .44 caliber revolver. Then on the evening of November 27th, the staff saw her one last time. It was between 7 and 8 p.m. She had come to the desk and asked them a familiar question. Had any letters arrived for her? And none had. The next morning, on November 28th, 1892, Kate Morgan was found dead on the beach near the steps below the hotel. There was a single gunshot wound to her head and a revolver nearby. The coroner ruled it a suicide, but questions followed immediately. Why the alias? Why the conflicting stories? Who was the man on the train? And why, if she intended to die, would she do so in such a public place, somewhere so exposed? Because Kate had used a false name, police struggled to identify her. Eventually they did, and telegrams were sent to people who were connected to her past. A telegram was sent to her ex-husband, but it was her grandfather who replied. He instructed authorities to bury her and send all the final paperwork to him. He did make one thing clear, that he did not believe that Kate's death was a suicide. Later, on December 13th of 1892, Kate Morgan was buried in an unmarked grave. There was actually a funeral service that was held, and it was public, and many members of the San Diego Coronado area attended her funeral. After decades and decades, that's where her story was supposed to end. Today, the Hotel Del Coronado has a book devoted entirely to her story. It's titled Beautiful Stranger, The Ghost of Kate Morgan and the Hotel Del Coronado. It chronicles her stay, her room, the staff encounters, and unanswered questions. The room she had stayed in, now 33036, is considered the most active room in the hotel. It's also the most requested room by guests, and yet the staff don't automatically assign it. Guests and employees describe a woman in a black lace dress, Victorian, formal, unmistakably out of time. They've seen her. People are talking about it. She's seen in hallways, near windows, on the 2nd and 3rd floors. And they say she doesn't speak. It just looks like she's waiting, right? As if she's continuing to wait for whatever man is supposed to show up. The guy from the train, maybe? Now, there's other reports of cold spots, lights flickering, and televisions turning on and off by themselves. There's objects that are moved but never broken, and even in the hotel gift shop where there's all the Kate Morgan merch, The staff report those items being tossed off the shelves, and they land undamaged, as if she's not being destructive, right? I'm almost thinking she just wants to be heard. She wants to be present. And the beach near the steps where her body was found, it's also considered highly active. There's sightings of her ghostly figure looking out to the water, as if whatever remained of Kate never fully chose between the room inside the hotel and the sea. I wanted to share a personal story about the Hotel Del Coronado. I haven't ever stayed as an overnight guest, but I was visiting the island with my kids over 15 years ago, and I had heard about the Hotel Del Coronado and about how beautiful it was. And as part of our day trip, we just wanted to go take a look. Nothing spooky planned. I didn't even think about ghost stories. Just wanted to walk the grounds and admire the historic architecture. And the Hotel Del Coronado is absolutely stunning. When you walk in, you feel this brightness. It's open, it's full of light, the kind of place where you wouldn't even expect to feel uneasy. And eventually we found our way to the elevator. The doors were already opening, and inside stood a man. He was an older gentleman, short and stocky, completely bald, big bulgy eyes, and he was wearing what looked like an old school elevator operator's uniform. It kind of stopped me for a second, and not because that wasn't possible, but it just felt like he was perfectly cast for this part of elevator operator. Like he had stepped out of another era and just into our day. He looked at us and said quietly and awkwardly, "Welcome. Going up?" His voice really didn't match his smile, but we stepped inside. There wasn't a conversation. There was no small talk. It was just the sound of the doors closing. And then we could feel the elevator rising. He didn't say anything else. We got off on the second floor and walked out into the hallway. It was beautiful. It was quiet. And almost immediately, we all looked at each other and exchanged the same look. Kind of like the look that says, "Do you feel that too?" But nothing bad happened. There was no jump scare, no shadow in the corner, just a shared, unmistakable feeling that something about that moment didn't belong. And when we felt like we had seen enough on the second floor, we didn't even discuss what happened in the elevator. We all knew we were taking the stairs. To this day, I don't know if that man was even an employee. Maybe, is he a performer? I'm going to have to look that up. But I've been to a lot of hotels, and I have never forgotten the feeling of that elevator ride. Back to Kate. Why did she die? Was it a broken marriage, failing health, a lost love, or something we'll never see clearly from this distance? Now, a century later, there was a lawyer named Alan May, and he had stayed in her room. He reported feeling her presence so strongly that he began researching her life obsessively. He researched her stay. He wanted to know more. And eventually he was able to track down her unmarked grave. He decided that he would place a headstone there himself, bearing both of her names, Kate Morgan and Lottie A. Bernard. And maybe what lingered all those years in that hotel wasn't anger. Maybe it was just the waiting, the unanswered letters, the man who didn't come, the story that never finished. Some people don't haunt places. Some places haunt moments. Buildings may outlive people, but moments linger. And that's the story of Kate Morgan, the beautiful stranger. What is your take on that? I mean, it seems pretty cut and dry that Kate was sad. She might have had cancer. She went to downtown San Diego and bought a gun and killed herself. What's with the man on the train? Do you think that he actually came to the hotel and killed her with a gun that she bought? You know, the stories will say that there was a lot of questions surrounding her death, but at its face, it seems pretty apparent that she took her own life. But I'm curious, what do you think about that? Let me know. Thank you so much for spending part of your time with me today. If you enjoyed this episode, leaving a rating or review truly helps this little inn grow, and it helps other curious travelers find their way here. In the next episode, we will check into another place with a story that refuses to stay quiet. Until then, enjoy your stay and remember to lock the door behind you. Okay, this is a radio check, a mic check. I was recording part of this episode without my mic being plugged in.